talking Attack of the 50-Foot CAMGIRL. And this one is directed by Jim Wynorski and is actually a Full Moon production. Now this movie is remarkably similar to a previous film, a mid-90s film called Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold that was directed by Fred Olen Ray and starred J.J. North. Now this one stars newcomer Ivy Smith, or you do have a few cameos and supporting roles from kind of screen queens such as Lisa London, Becky LeBlue and Cindy Lucas. Now it is essentially a remake of Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold, which of course was a parody of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and there seems to have been this now almost subgenre of giant women movies. Who knew that was a thing? But there's enough now where you can call it a subgenre. The story of this one is essentially we have this CAMGIRL, this kind of social media influencer. I guess these days you would say something along the lines of Onlyfans or Babe Station, something along the lines of this. And she has this kind of quite a large following. She's kind of managed by her husband. And she has a kind of an up-and-coming protege, so to speak, who the husband's having an affair with. And, you know, they're always looking for the next big thing. And if the husband has kind of duplicitous kind of motives, he wants to kind of get her fortune, etc., etc. And for some reason, they're kind of in bed with this kind of science community who are developing a kind of renewables type of food source. And our main character essentially tries it because she kind of wants to kind of get it out to market quickly and doesn't want to bother going through all the kind of trials and stuff. And this of course turns her into a giantess, where we have obviously people now trying to take advantage of her, including her husband, who really just sees her as a meal ticket. And of course this rival doesn't want to be bettered, so also takes down this this kind of experimental food and also becomes a giantess, leading to the inevitable smackdown. What'll happen? Well, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. So this has a scant running time as do many of Full Moon kind of modern features. So it's a somewhat kind of a punchy movie, but it is a one-joke film, more or less. However, that being said, there are a few kind of funny gags along the way, particularly in regards to kind of social media kind of culture. For example, there's a line where you know, the main sort of character says, "Oh, I've got to go and take some photos for my Snapchat and pretend to do things, you know, like, you know, hiking or whatever it might be, to kind of like show the kind of the audience that you have this great life," and it's all pointing to the fact that it's all obviously fake and things like this. So there are a few kind of gags that kind of like modern social media stars, the actual platforms themselves, things like that, which I did find quite fun. It's always nice to see some of these kind of like these screen queens and these kind of like you know, busty kind of like B-movie actresses from the kind of the past, albeit they have the kind of relatively kind of small roles in this kind of movie. You know, the plot is, like I said, more or less a remake of Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold, so it's nothing really particularly deep here, but you know, it helps it having a relatively kind of short running time. There are a few kind of like TNA scenes here with some buxom babes to you know, elicit some reaction, shall we say. But ultimately it's a very kind of lightweight film in many ways. It's, you know, it's a fun, cheesy kind of romp. It's not trying to kind of be too kind of serious. You know, we have a flimsy excuse, for example, why this girl's clothes are kind of growing with her and things like this. You know, it's trying to be silly, it's trying to be kind of hokey, and if you can kind of laugh along with it, you'll probably get at least some enjoyment out of this. But very much like Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold, it has a kind of the same problems. Ultimately, it feels like a gag which is stretched out into a kind of a running time. I have to say, this one, compared to Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold, we don't really get the kind of like the growing until over halfway through the movie, and then even it's really right at the end you actually get any type of adventure, shall we say. So it could have been a little bit kind of more kind of spaced out, to be honest. I have to say, I think this movie is probably funnier than the Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold. Like I said, it has these kind of more modern kind of quips about social media and social media users, but the actual kind of like, and it probably has a bit more nudity to be fair, but the actual, I say the story feels like it's truncated into the kind of like the second half there. Yeah, everyone's kind of doing a very kind of cheesy, hokey performance. You're not going to be like watching this for any type of real kind of acting or anything like this. I think, the cast do quite a charming job in very obviously, knowingly hokey kind of like cheesy kind of performances. And this was kind of like this style of movie was quite prevalent, I would say, like in the 90s, maybe the kind of the late 80s and stuff. But I don't know, this day and age, is there an audience for these type of things? I guess we'll see in the view count. But ultimately it's a very lightweight TNA throwaway kind of movie. Certainly not kind of essential viewing. It's, like I said, it's reasonably funny with a few kind of like throwaway gags in regards to social media, but the actual concept of the story, is kind of somewhat kind of stretched out, and ultimately you won't be particularly fulfilled, I don't think, in any type of narrative sense. But the girls are pretty, it's hokey, it's cheesy, it's very B-movie. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? Would you see it? Please do leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.